Check, check, check. Looks like I'm live. And of course, since we're just getting started, nobody's really around yet. That's okay. Before we get started, I'll just kind of look at some of the work that's been done in the last few days. I know I don't give you guys much of a warning when I go live, so this has been an otherwise somewhat busy season, being that it's tax season and this sort of thing. So I'm going to go check my YouTube real quick and make sure this video is public. Just a little extra step it never hurts to take. And it looks like it is. So yeah, everything seems to be working. So, cool beans. Well, a little while ago we were cranking through this stuff. And I think we'll switch screens and maybe go full screen here so I can kind of see what I'm doing a little better. The sequence came out pretty well. No big complaints. Then we got into this stuff where we're switching to the tent situation. Let's see, we'll let this play. Yeah, so I guess the last video I posted was pretty much this scene, it was a speed paint is what it was, actually, come to think of it. Speed paint, time lapse, whatever you want to call it. This sequence, there was one major mistake I made, which was to try to do the whole sequence in one blow in Krita. That was definitely a bad idea. The footprint was probably a couple of gigabytes, and once you get past about 500, which for me in practice probably means with a normal number of layers, you're probably talking about, an 8-second, 10-second shot is kind of the tops before Krita starts acting a little bit silly and bogging down. So, yeah, I learned my lesson. That little sequence there was actually done in Tahoma. And so now we're into this bit where we're going to be dealing with Monkey. And that's always fun. Monkey's a lot of fun. So, as I've said many times, the workflow is always evolving a little bit. Probably the most recent substantive change was being able to cut and paste into Tahoma. And in this case, actually, the background painting and foreground, I guess you'd say, were all done in Tahoma as well. I think I even added a body highlight effect to that to put that sort of sunshine on the grass. Hey, Max. So that worked out pretty well. But going back a week or two, I kind of arrived at the place where what seemed to be making the most sense is really to stay in Krita as much as possible, just because the post-production aspect, adding gradients and doing little touch-ups, is just so much easier in Krita. But of course you don't have any of the animation tools that you have with, say Blender or Tahoma. So rather than trying to mix and match over to those other applications too much, I'm thinking, well, why don't I just, if I really need to go beyond what Krita can do, why not sort of like just pre-render some stuff in Blender or Tahoma and then just bring it into Krita. And then the next thing I did was made as I say, a strategic error, which was to really ask Krita to do too much. And that was bound to happen. So anyway, so today we're in Blender. And people keep asking me if I have looked at the grease pencil tools in Blender 2.93. And I want to tell you that I have, and I like what I see. Not going to like jump over to the alpha Blender 2.93 here, but suffice to say that they really have gotten the fill tool right in some important ways. Let's see. The lesser one being that you don't have to be like super, like if I was trying to do a fill operation on this, in this, actually this version of Blender 2.81a, you would have to, if you, assuming you had outlines here and everything was enclosed properly so it wasn't going to leak. Yeah, so Max Power just mentioned it. So I'm addressing that like right now as we speak, Max. So it's been the case in Blender that if this was properly inked, if I wanted to fill the whole thing with one color, which I wouldn't, but let's say I did, it would be essential that I be zoomed out like this when I did it, because if I was zoomed in, it would crop the fill to the viewport. See that? So I wouldn't sweat that too much. But the big thing in 2.93 that I think is absolutely amazingly cool is in 2.93, if you've got ink lines like this and they're broken, you've got the ability to invoke this feature that essentially stretches these lines like this, in this direction, until they cross and create a closed area, right? But these lines that are added don't actually become part of the picture. They're just there for the purpose of the fill tool. And if you put the precision, I found that if you went much higher than 1 on the precision, it would really slow Blender down as far as doing the fills. Now the fills came out looking good, but I don't know. I'm actually thinking maybe I should just open it up and say, just show this, because this is really quite a cool thing. Let me just go over here. We'll just do a quick and dirty demo. Quick and dirty demo. What I'm liking is really 3 things with the grease pencil, with the fill tools here. So I'm not so whippy on the palette. I think that the vertex painting in the palette is a cool thing. I don't think they've got it right yet in terms of the direction they're trying to go, because it seems like one of the intents there, as evidenced by the custom brushes that you can download, would be to be able to almost turn Blender into a viable pixel type painting tool, and they're coming really, really close. I mean, they're doing a great job of getting there. But what you can't do is you would think you'd be able to use the eyedropper to like sample a color and just have it in vertex paint mode or palette mode, whatever you want to call it, have it select that color. But that's not actually what happens. What the eyedropper does is it takes whatever's the color that you sample and creates a new standard material based on that. So for me, that's not actually that useful. I can kind of see where it could be useful sometimes as you're sort of building up the palette for your scene. But the big things that are super cool for me would be probably, let's see here. I think my appears to be a bit locked up over there. It's a little strange. Not sure what's going on there, but I'm not gonna sweat that at the moment. Anyway, the idea of the with the inking stuff would be that if you have a character, let me just pick on Monkey. I'll just draw a quick and dirty version of Monkey, just because I'm kind of fiddling with him at the moment in the other scene. Okay, so this doesn't really look like him, but the point is that we have these gaps. Okay, and so the thing that I think is quite cool is with the fill tool, you go into advanced and you can do this thing called stroke extension. And so let's say I'm going to go do a fill operation, and I probably should change colors here. I'm flying blinder than I should be here. I really want a solid fill, and what am I missing here on the, oh, here we go. Yeah, for some reason right now the this is behaving a little strangely, but that's okay. So if I want to do the fill operation, because I turned on the stroke extension, what should happen when I go to fill this is now I have this deal where I can roll my middle mouse button and turn this up or down. Right now it's a little bit obnoxiously large, so let me go in here and maybe turn this down a little bit so it's not quite so stupid looking. Right, so you you click to do a fill, and to be clear, yeah, now it's behaving the way I expected. Okay, so what it did was it put these blue lines in there that extend those all those, you know, borders out. And then when I click the fill tool a second time, what should happen is it fills it in, and right now it's not working. So unfortunately, it is the case that I tried this earlier. Everything worked perfect. Now I just spontaneously live on YouTube try to do it, and something's not quite working right. Why is it in? See, yeah, that seems strange. That looks like an eyedropper. That is a bit strange. So clearly all the bugs are not worked out. But what should be a fill operation, and I'm going to turn and by the way, if anybody sees what I'm doing wrong here, please speak up. I'm going to turn the stroke extension off, and now I wonder about this material. Solid fill, it is a fill material, but it's in, I mean, let's put it in the regular mode here, and unable to fill unclosed areas. Okay, so that's fine. That's what I would expect. And so now I do stroke extension. Let me see if unable to fill unclosed areas. So I wonder what that leak is crossed. That one's crossed. Ah, I see. Okay, here's the problem. Look at this one. So, you know, it was bound to be something. Right there, there's your problem. So it's not a foolproof tool in the sense that you're never ever going to have to, sorry, I just did something stupid. Okay, so let me just put that in there. So I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to click this little icon that says draw strokes on back so that when I do the fill, it's actually going to put it behind the lines. But now it should work. Let's give it a crack. So you go to do a fill operation. This one here is a little questionable still. Let's see. Up, that worked. Okay, and so with the precision the way it was, as you can see, there's a little bit of an anomaly there, but that's pretty quick to fix up. So I can turn my stroke extension off and then just, okay, really? Hit the Z key. Let me see. Okay, yeah, I see what's going on. Some of the settings I have in Blender 2.81 are not the same. With in 2.81, if I'm using the fill tool and I hit Control, I can just draw a shape. So I got to go in and change some of the preferences. But bottom line is, as far as a fill tool, that's a pretty cool feature. Again, not perfect, but the other thing would be multi-frame. The idea that you can have an animated character that is moving over many, many frames, and if you turn on multi-frame, you can actually do kind of like you can do in Tahoma or OpenToonz actually, where you can click one time and it'll do the fill over all of the frames. So yeah, Monkey looks different, Darren, because I just did a quick and dirty sketch because I just wanted to show this. So I will say that the best thing I can probably tell you guys right now, let me just look in my YouTube history. If you guys want to know more about this, let me see here. Just bear with me half a second. And I am going to go to my history and pull up this. Yes, this would be good. Okay. So this video right here, if you guys want to know more about this is pretty good. Grease Pencil Improvements, Blender 2.93, explains exactly what I'm talking about. It shows, they're doing a way better job than me at showing this. So they kind of show the precision thing, and I'm just scanning through to see where they demonstrated right here. You can see what they're doing is they're literally clicking once, and it's filling in over that entire frame range, which is great. So between that and the ability to close those strokes the way I demonstrated a minute ago, like I said, we're getting there. We are getting there. A proper fill tool is an awesomely cool thing. So anyway, enough about that. It's shift left click to draw a shape with a fill tool. Okay, yeah. And maybe it is here too. Actually, let me just see. No. Yeah, I was correct. So for me, in Blender 2.1, I'm sorry, 2.81 close-ups of his head, and that there was going to be a smash zoom from a wide shot to real close. And so, hey Maria, and so I figured, look, I want the vectors, I want the ability to stretch and squish things around, and so my plan is, for this particular shot, I'm going to go ahead and just block in the keyframes, the animation keyframes in Blender, and do the ink and paint, and then just render out the keyframes and bring them into Krita over the top of a background for finishing. So I'm probably going to go ahead and do all the ink and paint and everything in Blender on this shot, though. So basically much. I mean, it really, really does. So anyway, so that's where we're at today. I thought this would be fun to go ahead and do as a live stream, because what I'm about to do from an animation standpoint should be quite interesting. What's got to happen, so I'll show the keyframes that are already in place, and then that kind of gets us started. Okay, so this will be inked and painted, and then what I'll bring into Krita is essentially this little change in attitude, and then I'll just kind of have these keyframes that I can, you know, of him kind of wagging his tail, and then he'll go like this, and now the part that I need to animate comes into play. And what he's going to do is he's smelling something interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in here, and I'm kind of referencing what I put on paper, but I'm going to be a little more liberal because I don't want to be using the fill tool, because I'm working in Blender. I'm being a little more liberal with my keyframes. Again, because my intent is to just render out the animation keys of the character with an alpha channel, and then just bring those into Krita and deal with the timing there. So on the one hand, this is probably the kind of thing most people, if they're tuning into a channel on animation, this is probably the kind of thing most people want to see. It's just somebody, you know, it's kind of like when you watch Glenn Keane, you know, drawing Little Mermaid or something, and you know, you're seeing the loose, sketchy, you know, the fun part, which is, you know, I think for most people that are into animation, the fun part is animating, right? So I am going to give myself the latitude here to just really play around with the acting. So one thing that might happen here is you see his nostrils look a little big. Well, that's on purpose, because the idea is that his nose is catching a scent. Right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate it so that his nose kind of goes boom, boom, boom. So it's like he's going up and then down a little bit, and then up and then down. So his nose works its way up into the sky as he's sort of sensing this interesting scent, you know, coming along. So yeah, animation, man, it's fun stuff. Okay, so let's pull back here just a little bit. Okay, yeah, I'm glad I did. Definite characterization issues. Now he's going to be a little off character because he's kind of squishing around. He's moving a bit, but I want to be careful not to get too sloppy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and make that big, and then what I'm going to do is jump to the next frame. Let me see if I have additive drawing on. Yeah, let's turn that on. Otherwise, every time I start drawing, it'll okay, sorry. I just did the complete exact opposite of what I intended to do. I didn't mean to add weight data. I meant to add that. So that makes it so that it doesn't create a blank keyframe when I start drawing. Okay, so why did I just do that? I wanted to treat this as a squash and stretch, and I think that's really wrong anyway. I'm going to just erase that. So I've got my eraser, just for anyone who cares. The eraser is set to points. If you go to erase, and then you would go into what is it? I'm still relearning stuff here in Blender, and it's a little annoying because things that I did like yesterday, I'm drawing a little bit of a blank on today. So hopefully I don't have early onset Alzheimer's, but there's a lot of icons, folks. I think what I may have done is just chose a different eraser here, but anyway, I guess it's, yeah, that's correct. That's what I did. I just chose a different eraser altogether. What I was looking for is, you know, with some options, you click here on the tool and you get the variations. Like for doing selections in edit mode, for example, you can decide to do lasso select or box select, whatever, that type of thing. So I was kind of looking for it there, but it's really just here where I just chose a different eraser. I like erase point, and if you're, that is the soft eraser. Frankly, the soft eraser feels to me like it's a little, does a little better job than it used to, so I'm gonna just go ahead and stick with that for the moment. So anyway, it's all good. So he turns his head and then he kind of does this move. So now what I'm doing is I want to flow with this a little better than I did a moment ago, and actually get some squash and stretch in there and sort of have some fun with monkeys. So we're going to be doing more of that later. There's actually quite a strong squash and stretch element that I have kind of planned here. Okay, so here he's going from here to here. Let's just say this here is not going to descend as much because it's going to descend more on the next frame. Now lately I've seriously given some consideration, not a ton, but I'm thinking about the idea of even allowing myself to go to 12 frames a second instead of 8. So far I haven't made that decision, but if I do more work in Blender, I may wind up being okay with that. The problem is if you have too many keyframes, you know, Krita's going to start bogging down, because you're going to always have to have more frames to do what you're, well, half again more actually if you jump from 8 frames per second to 12. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this key just because I don't need it in there. Let me see here. Boom, boom. I'm gonna say I'm gonna get rid of this one too. I feel like I've got a little bit of garbage going on here. I want to be careful. Okay, so boom. Interesting how you, oops. If you're allowing yourself to do a squash and stretch kind of thing, it's really interesting how if you just think about the sort of physics of it and just draw what looks right based on where things would move, those intermediate keys like this one definitely can look a little strange. But in context, when everything's moving, it might be just fine. No, it might not be. If the force, so what's happening, there's a lot happening here. His nose is kind of going up and starting to perk up, right? While at the same time his head is going to our right, his left. So I'm letting his ears drag behind is what I'm doing. In case you didn't pick up on that. Boom. You know, you guys know I'm not real big on onion skins, but I do like this process. I like the flipping and just letting the animation sort of reveal itself to you. That looks much better. That looks much better. I like this. Okay, looking at how's your project coming along, Maria? Okay, cool. Hey Yvette, by the way, welcome to the party. Just doing a little Blender work today. Okay, so now what I want to do is, since I'm in additive mode, and I just kind of want to be a purist on this particular. I don't want eraser hard. I do want eraser point. Because I'm being a purist. Okay, now that's interesting. That's interesting and a little bit of a bummer. This didn't happen before. I just changed the eraser. Maybe I just have to use it once. Okay, now I've used it. Yep, that's what it was. So if you change the eraser and then you go, it doesn't immediately change when you're in pencil mode. And again, the hotkeys are probably different in Blender 2.93. I haven't gone deep with 2.93. I've just tested the new grease pencil fill tools, and I like what I see. So we'll keep going. But when I say being a purist, what I mean is I want to go ahead and redraw this from scratch. I want to kind of do the animator thing here. So here, what I'm trying to do now is I'm going to give him, I'm going to let this weight come around. So this got dragged behind. So now this would come down here. Yeah, this is almost Seven Dwarfs type squash and stretch we're getting into here. But it's fun, you know. It's not the right thing for every shot necessarily. And so I'm just going to keep putting in lines that feel like they're kind of where they need to be, and we'll see what happens to the creature overall. It looks to me like he's looking about right, actually. But the thing I'm going to do is make sure that the nostrils are really dilated. Maybe his eyes would be like this for one frame. So again, we're just going to play with this. I want to have some fun, just kind of having fun in Blender today, so no big yank. Okay, and then the important thing here is going to be to let him settle back into his normal shape before we go any further with the animation. His head's actually going to have to whip back around the other way, so yeah. So he's going vroom, vroom. And I don't know if he would actually be permitted to have whites of the eyes on that particular shot, just because, you know, for the effect of it, but maybe. Okay, so now what we need to do is let's just erase all of this. Now if I wanted to play it super safe, the thing to do would be to just cut and paste the strokes from earlier and then reposition them. So let's give that a try just for something to do. So I'm going to go like this. Okay, I'm going to jump into edit mode. I'm going to hit Alt A just to make sure something's not already selected. And then for me, in Blender 2.81a, I've got it set up so that I can just draw a lasso. That is not the default, and the choice, I believe, gosh, where the heck? It's so weird that I set this, and I know I've set it and tweaked it a quadzillion times. Select mode. Where the heck is it? I know I'm looking straight at it. I'm looking straight at it, I am sure. Probably under select. Maybe that's what it was for this. But see, this doesn't even have a lasso select option. I would swear it was an icon like this one. You know, a little icon where you pick lasso box, you know, whatever. So, I don't know, maybe yeah. Anyway, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control X. Okay, with that we don't want to do. Okay, I'm glad I tested that. So that wants to do a dissolve. I'm going to go Control C, and then let's see if we can jump back here and go Control V. Yep, there we go. Okay, so that's good. Now what I'm going to do just to be safe is I'm going to move this over here so that it's easy to select it, because I got to go back and remember. Okay, yeah. So what I want to do here is go SX -1. So scale on the x-axis -1. Okay, and that just puts it in reverse. And now I should be able to put this about there. Okay, I'm going to keep rolling with this. And I am not going to use any special interpolated keyframes, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go put this here. I'm going to give myself more animation keys than I think I'm going to need, is what I'm really trying to say. So scale x -1. That gets that back around there. Let's just check back here. Okay. Now this I want to compensate a little bit so that it looks like a more natural tween. Okay. And then actually what I'm going to do here, let's hit Alt A and then jump back with Control Tab. Let's jump back into draw mode. Okay. Now the question becomes, do I want to draw, or do I want to use the sculpt tools and whatnot? As far as the monkey's movement, this is what we have. This is going to go by pretty fast, but it is at 8 frames a second. So when this is, if these keyframes are brought into Krita, what you're actually going to see is something like boom, boom, boom. You know, it's all going to be timed out. But right now what we're looking at is this, and then there's a tween to that, and then he settles into that, and then boom, over to this, and now we're going to get into the next thing with the whole sniffing. Okay, so here's what I think I want to do. My sense is that I want to go, probably, let's sculpt it, man. Let's use sculpt mode since we're just working on the pencil test anyway. Let's just go ahead and use sculpt mode, which if you guys are Krita people at all, this looks quite similar to the liquify tool. Okay, and now I'm going to actually make this bigger. I want to push everything up a little bit. Okay, I like that. And then what I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to bring it back 1 frame. Okay, but edit mode, I don't quite want this where it is. Okay, and now I'm going to go up even higher. Now see, what I could do here, if I hit Alt A, I'm not sure in Blender 2.81 if I'm using the right mouse. Okay, it's still the, that's cool. It's still the right mouse is, I've got it set as the default for selection. So that's kind of been the Blender traditional way of doing it for years and years. Let's see what happens there. Okay, so I'm going to hit the O key to turn on the proportional editing tool. And when I'm doing this sort of thing, sculpting type of things, I tend to favor the proportional editing tool more than you know what I should do? Let me undo that. I'm going to actually duplicate this, but then stay on frame 15. Okay, that's pulling a little bit. I'm actually thinking I want that exaggerated. I want that exaggeration, but I feel like the fall off is a little too smooth. Maybe a sharper fall off would be nice. Let's try that and see what happens. That's better. Okay. So it's not affecting the rest of his body as much. So let's just see what that feels like. So we got, hello? Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so just for the record, the prior and next animation keyframes doesn't appear to work when you're in edit mode, so you just jump back into draw mode, right? But actually, maybe not. I don't know. Strange. No more keyframes. I'm in the sketch layer. That's a little strange. Okay. That's very strange. I needed to explicitly select the sketch layer here in the dope sheet. I'm not sure why that would be, because definitely we were in the sketch layer here. One of the options I have on, by the way, in Blender almost all the time is auto lock inactive layers, so that when you're creating keyframes, you are only creating keyframes on the frames that you're working with. Okay, this is too much. So I'm just going to delete that key and duplicate this to here. So I feel like I went too far. So instead of using the proportional editing tool, I'm going to go ahead and go back into sculpt mode and just do it this way. You're sort of accomplishing the same thing in a different way. Little up, little more. I don't know. This might be. I'll just offer this caveat that this may prove to be one of the things where it would be better to just redraw the stuff. Just kind of do it the real old school way. But we'll see. Alright, I'm going to actually go another keyframe downstream here and then try to reverse this a bit. Okay, so what I want to do is actually delete this keyframe so that I can go to that frame, and then when I start sculpting, it's going to just add another keyframe just by virtue of the fact that something changed. Because what I'm wanting is for him to go up, then back a little bit, then up more, then back a little bit more, that kind of thing. 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay, right there. Alright. I'm not worrying about his eyes, by the way. This part of his head and everything is not really quite where it needs to be. It's getting increasingly distorted because of the sculpting. What I'm concerned about is only the movement of his muzzle, if you will. I want to get that right. Okay, it's getting close. It's getting close, actually. 1, 2. All right, let's see what happens if we just play that. Okay, in other words, let's look at the timing of this. If we stretch this out, you know what? It's not bad. That's not bad. I have to admit, it's a little better than I thought it was. So these are all keys that are going to be timed out later. So from about frame 10 or so on, I think we should do it one more time. Okay, and then he settles down to that. So I think we should do it one more time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sculpt even more. And I'm really, really looking at Monkey's expression. I'm really looking at the idea of what would his face be doing. I mean, you know, if he was really sniffing, really smelling something interesting. You know, there'd be a little squish and stretch this way. I suppose maybe his head would prop up a little bit. The movement has a nice, charming character, Dave. Hey, thanks, Maria. I appreciate that. Okay. And then here, again, you're kind of in the same situation where, by the way, I'm hitting the F key. F is in Frank. And that's how you just change the size of the sculpting tool's influence. Okay, so for me, I'm feeling like, you know, again, I still want to add that disclaimer that it may turn out using the sculpting tools may not be the right answer here. Okay, we got a little bit. And by the way, one of the interesting things in Blender too is that the influence of the tool, and I like this, by the way, some people might not, but I like the fact that the tool doesn't scale. So in other words, if I wanted to influence his whole head, all I really have to do is zoom out, because the tool doesn't scale, see? The tool stays the same size no matter how zoomed in you are, so you can actually... Okay, so yeah, this feels very... when it plays back, it's pretty close. Surprisingly good, actually, to tell you the truth. You know, not to pat myself on the back or anything, because it's kind of a stupid accident, but it's actually surprisingly good when it plays. I didn't expect that. I think it'd be interesting to put a little pause in there. Boom, boom. Yeah, so if you're really going to time this out, it would be something like that. So from, say, frame 10 or 11 on, you'd have boom, boom, boom. Well, specifically, you'd have not bad, not bad. What feels very lumpy and glumpy doesn't look... And for now, what I'm going to do is focus on his eyes. Right there, see how messy that is? So the sculpting tools got me most of the way there in terms of, you know, it feels like the right idea, but it's just all so distorted, you know. So that's not a criticism of the tools by any means. It's just purely, you know, artifacts, and that's cool. So here again, I'm going to actually just erase this because I want to get the roundness back into the area around his eyes. The sculpting it just kind of bent it so it wasn't round anymore. See, that looks better. That looks more like monkey. And if he's going to kind of be going like my parrot, you know, if he's going to be going into the sort of dots for eyes thing, then let's run with that. Actually, you know what? Let's not. Come to think of it, let's try this. I don't know if it'll work, but it's definitely what I'm feeling. And maybe only give this 2 frames and then poof. Yeah. So what we want to do here, I see what we want to do. Let's just fix this up, baby. Okay. This kind of came out about right. Not bad, not bad. Now, it could be, you know, it could be I'll get this all done and this touched up drawing may actually look worse than what I did with the sculpting tools. It could happen, so. But this is a part of the process that I've struggled with to a degree, and I'm learning to embrace, is the fact that there are always corrections. There are always redos. Okay, and this feels too big to me. What if that happened? Okay. Then this would be like that. Not quite. Oh, it doesn't look worse. The drawings aren't great, but that's not why it looks worse. It looks worse because the shape corrections are fine probably, but here it's fallen apart badly. And the reason it's falling apart badly is because I'm trying to do too much. So it's almost like when you have two things animating on the screen at the same time, your audience doesn't know what to look at. I mean, they really don't, especially if it's on different sides of the screen. That's like the worst. Okay, so let's just make these blank, and I will... I'm not sure about the smile at this point. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So now what I want to do is judge. Let's take those extra lines out. I just want to judge whether it feels pretty much right. Probably, let me see. Okay, probably. So now what I want to do is I want to be a little more meticulous about doing good tweening here. Okay, so the nose came up. Yeah, I'm going to take this out too so that I can really focus on doing a good tween. Doesn't quite feeling right to me. Okay, now this shouldn't probably move so much. Just a little bit. This might want to come back a little further this way. Okay. Let's take this out for the moment. So like I said, this is something I've been really having to embrace, is the fact that, man, you know, if you want to get it good, you're going to have a lot of redos, a lot of fixes, a lot of erasing, I guess. But importantly, okay, there's a little issue there with the ears. The ears aren't moving. No, everything else is. Yeah, that doesn't feel right. But what I was going to say is, if the pencil test truly doesn't feel right, then it's you might kind of get away with it. I mean, to be fair, sometimes you can actually get away with it, but basically it's going to look choppy probably when you ink it and paint it. Now I'm actually just now in real time here. I'm finally starting to feel like I'm getting in my groove. Which it's probably partly because I'm live streaming. Because when I'm not live streaming and talking about what I'm doing, I tend to be able to get really in the creative zone a little better. You know, it's probably not altogether surprising. All right. I like the idea of that stop right there. To be clear about what's really going on here, what's happening is you're going from this shot. Well, actually, let's go back to this screen, and I'll just put it here. Okay. So what we're doing is we're gonna be this shot was cut in two. So we got this establishing shot, and then this is what I'm working on right now. And then boop, down he goes, and there he is at the, you know, appears by the tent. So, you know, again, there's quite a lot of acting, you know, here to do with monkeys. So it's a fun part of the show for sure. Boom. And I think let's get rid of this. I think the thing to do here, I'm going to double this like that, and I'm going to edit this one. I want to add these eyes the way I drew them in the pencil, or in the, well, yeah, actually the storyboard. You guys saw that. And I'm referring to that right now. Yeah, what I have in the storyboard is, after he fully absorbs the smell of the goodies, which, by the way, I think are like raisins and dates that are down there in the tent. Those raisins and dates become quite important later. Now, would he have... Maybe, we're getting into R. Crumb territory here a little bit. For those of you who know who R. Crumb is, I would say. I think R. Crumb's the guy that drew the 1970s iconic Keep on Truckin' dude. So maybe that would give you a clue if you don't know who R. Crumb is. Seems to me he died recently, but he was one of the pioneers of underground comics here in the United States. Okay, I would say, if we're going to do that, let's just break him here. Go into edit mode. Hello, edit mode. Let's rotate. That's not what we want. Let's hit the O key to turn proportional editing off. Then we'll hit the rotate and kind of perk him up a little bit. And then we'll jump back into draw mode. Okay, so the question then becomes, would there be a tween? And I think there would. So let's just kind of do it the most obvious way, I think, which is going to be to go like that, like that. Okay, and then back into draw mode. Then what we're going to do is take this key and move it down here so it actually happens right before. So this, I don't know if this fits in there anywhere. I'd consider doing it this way. I like that better. I think this is too extreme. So, alright, so from there on, okay, okay, probably there. It would be good to have something more like that, because he sort of flows up into the eyebrows up thing. And probably the really smart thing to do, I could be wrong, but I think is going to be to go here and actually put a blink in there. Yep, I think that's what we need. Let me see. Not too bad. Okay, that made me chuckle. So that wasn't a belly laugh. That was just a chuckle. But the basic idea is there. I think the timing is probably a little off. Bloop, bloop, bloop. So if it was me, and it is, then I would think probably stretch these parts out. Keep the keys together, but bloop, bloop, bloop. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Okay, and then also, my sense is that actually this should be a blink as well. I think that's one of the reasons this one's not working. So we'll see. But I think I don't know, we'll see. So that then he pops open. Pop. And let's get that cracked. I think this probably needs an extra frame. Doom, doom. Okay. So let's keep going with this. I wasn't really gonna map out the timing, but I'm trying to just learn as I go here in terms of allowing the workflow to be informed by the problems I bump into. And it seems to me that it makes sense to go ahead and block in the timing here in Blender. I can always mush the keys back together if I want. Okay, what I think here, I'm almost there, folks, but I feel like the whole sniffing thing needs one more iteration. So if we're going to do that, what I want to do is just kind of move these probably about 4 frames downstream. And then I want to take these 2 keys and dupe them. And then take everything about these 2 keys and move it all north. Okay, so sculpt mode. F, make this a really big area. And see if that helps. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, see, that feels right. Now this needs to be a little more extreme. So let's go to edit mode. I would say let's rotate this a little bit more. And let's see how it goes from here to, yeah. So this, what I'm looking for is an expression more like that. Let's go back into draw mode so I can clean this up a bit because it looks obviously pretty stupid. Okay, now let's sculpt this a bit. I feel like Monkey's proportions have gotten a little bit bent out of shape here in the interest of trying to capture the attitude. And that's a problem because it feels like he's lost a little bit of volume. That's better. That's definitely better. Okay. File, save. That background looks great. You must be talking about when I played the video. Thanks. You know, I actually did 2 versions of that with the tents. I didn't have much in the way of reference, and yeah, I drew the whole thing and then wound up changing the angle. So let's go. Let's cut this into the show. Since I do have the timing blocked in here, why not cut it in and see what we have? Okay, so the whole thing will be a wide shot, which really isn't correct, but that's okay. So the way we would do that in Blender is we would go here. No, here. Okay, 1280 by 720. Gosh, what do we want to do? Let's do through frame 60. That's probably a pretty safe bet. And we do want pings with, actually, do we want pings for now? I think not. We actually want JPEGs. So the background will be baked into it. And where are we going to put it? We're going to put it in L, Anime, Salt and Light, Scenes, and it's 457. So let's just kind of roll our mouse down to 457. There it is. Whoops. 457. Okay, and then what we want to do is the usual, which is put in a folder called render, and we'll call this 457. And you know, I don't need to give it a special name either, because if I render it out and then ultimately bring the results from Blender into Krita, then once they're in Krita, they're saved. So at that point I could render out to the same file names in Krita, and it's not going to be a problem if they're overwritten, because at that point they've been imported into Krita. Hope that makes sense. It might not, but I'm trying, people. So now I'm going to hit Control F12 and let this whole sequence render. And while that's rendering, I'm going to go over to the show. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace 457 with this image sequence. So I'm hitting Control L to turn off ripple editing, so I can delete that out of the show. I don't need the reference from the storyboard anymore. And by now we probably can go to anime, salt and light, scenes. What was it? 457, I think. It would be the last one in the 450s here anyway. Come on. There you are. Render. Open the sequence. And we're going to do that at 8 frames per second. And 457 because we kind of opened Vegas a little while ago. We're not really in the right place here in the media pool, but there it is. So we're going to take this, drag it in here, turn off the resampling. Okay, so 60 frames. I'm going to turn Control L back on, by the way, so I can ripple edit again. Because what I want to do is cut this up into here and see how it feels. Okay, so just to be nice to you guys, I'll go ahead and put this full screen like so. So here's okay, not bad. It's actually not bad at all. The ending of the sequence obviously went a little bit long, so yeah, so basically bloom, boom. So that's going to end something like there. Boom. Okay, and then here I really want him to be going right into action with flying into his next move. Okay, so even there, I would almost say just 1 frame of that, I think. Give it just another. There we go. Okay, so let's see that again. We're done with Tianara. By the way, in case you guys don't know, this is kind of important. Tianara is in that tent. You probably knew that, but yeah. So, yeah, she's in the tent. So, monkey smells something. Not bad, not bad. Not necessarily amazing, but not bad. Okay, so let's switch this to half resolution and turn off the preview. So, what do I think about that? Well. And by the way, we're not looking at the grease pencil animation here. We're looking at the render. Let's see here. It is almost 6 o'clock. I would say, I think I'm going to take a break. I'm going to call it good. I want to take a break and breathe on this one because I have a feeling it might do me a little good to work with it just a bit offline. Boom, boom, boom. Because I need to work out the framing too. Sometimes when you do a good hour session like this, it can do a lot of good to just get away from it for, you know, for half an hour or something, and then come back to it, and you see things you couldn't see before. Because what I have here to just kind of wrap the discussion up, and by the way, I'm aware that Monkey has no arms. Okay, so I know we need to figure out where we're putting his arms in there. I would assume that we'll probably have another layer that's something like this. You know, just have his arms down there, reaching down to the ground. So but this is one of those scenes that I think It's like it's pretty darn good, but I just feel like maybe it could be better. So I want to think about it a bit. Zuko's over there. Zuko goes, when I just said that a moment ago, Zuko says, okay. In the background. He's like, yeah, okay, no problem, man. Oh, African gray parrots are fun. I mean, they're really smart. You know, if I go walk upstairs, he'll be like, well, he'll say night, 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 night. He knows you're going up to go to bed. Or he'll say, is Val up there? Is Val up there? He says the right things at the right time, so you know that they're thinking. I don't know if they really process it the way people do, but sometimes it sure seems like they do. So, one thing I'm kind of feeling is that maybe, like I could be wrong, but maybe I'm gonna duplicate this, and then I'm wondering if on this frame, I wonder if we did a sculpt mode, and then you hit Shift Spacebar. Grab, push, twist, pinch. I don't think. Okay, so I don't think we really have a. I didn't realize this, guys, but I don't think we really have a grow mode like you do with the Krita Liquify tool. Okay, so if I was going to do it the hard way, or the more traditional way, I would go like this. Maybe even expand that out a little bit. It does go by awful quick. Yeah, see, it's a great example of where you don't even know if that works till you get the ears in there and draw everything. You don't know if it works. There's too many things that are moving and other things disappearing that's impossible to judge. It's kind of a good example of where just sketching everything out and doing it all with drawings is maybe better advised. So I would say at the moment that's not helping much. So I'm just going to leave that like it is. But anyway, so I think I'll call it good for now. Probably what I'll do is record, you know, if I work on it later tonight, I probably won't go live. I'll probably just might make a video though. So anyway, hope everybody's doing well. And I would say, as usual, this has been a good exercise. And you know,